feel like all Christians do this. They bombard you with so much that in order to even begin to address what you're saying is a yes, I know. I know. And that's what I was going to say earlier. There's a lot of this going on tonight. Oh, it's just like, here's what I see. There's this tree. And what I'm doing is like this tree of Christianity, this tree of religion, right? What I'm doing with a lot of my deconstructing, with a lot of my research, with a lot of the questions I have, is like here's the ground of the tree is in the ground, and the roots are, down here. I'm like asking questions down here. Like this tree grew out of something, and it's, what's up here is just like some of it's dead, and people still think it's growing, but it's dead. And I'm like, all right, so what's actually still growing out of this idea that a God exists? And what's dead, but people still think that it's still living? And so I feel like I get a lot of questions from Christians that are they're questions based off of what's coming off of the branches, and sometimes those branches are dead. And I'm like, hold on. Let's rewind, and I take a very pragmatic approach to these questions, which is basically like, I get questions on sin, and I get questions on conviction or guilt or things like that. And I'm like, hold on. What do you mean by sin? What do you mean by conviction? What do you mean by guilt? What do you mean by heaven? What do you mean by hell? What do you mean by salvation? What do you mean by belief, by faith? These words that people just throw out, all the time when talking in, conservative fundamentalist language, without actually knowing and diving deep into what they're saying and what those words actually mean, without diving into the etymology of it, really. And so it's difficult hearing some of these questions, because it's not that I can't elaborate or answer some of these questions. It's just like, hold on. For me to completely get like a full appropriate thought out, it's like I gotta like, okay, not only do I need to pragmatically dissect the question, but I also have to try to reveal to that individual that the branch on which their question hangs could potentially be a dead branch. Now, this is difficult because obviously they think it's alive. They think it's a legitimate question. But I'm like, hold on. If you would go back a little bit, just back a little bit, and then back a little bit more, and then to the roots of it all, you would see that that's not a simple question. There's actually a lot more to it. And that's potentially a dead end because it's a dead branch. It's been dead for a long ass time. It's been dead for a long time. But we're still asking these questions, and then we're making up our own answers, which just go and feed religion. Because when we make up our own answers based on our own subjective philosophical desires, that it's like, well, this has to be the case, this has to be right, then it's just, it strays away from, this seed that was there, born, whatever, God, this thing that has come up out of the ground, that it's rooted in something. But then, then people started to try to explain it in different ways, and it's worked in some, and now it hasn't worked, and it's created chaos, and it's created a number of things. It's created religion, and so it's like, let's leave aside all of this, like everything we think we know, all of the philosophy and religion that we think makes sense to us, and let's actually go back down to the roots of like, let's actually listen to what we're saying. And so it's so it's just so difficult. I love it because I love having these conversations. But it's like, oh man, how can I dissect a question and also ask them the question: is this a legitimate question? Because it might be a dead question off of a dead tree a dead tree altogether. We don't even know, when we're never going to know unless we go back to the roots of it. So I'm trying in my whole deconstruction process of religion, of God, of everything. I'm going back to the roots. And it's difficult whenever I hear somebody say a comment, conservative, fundamental, religious, Christian, whatever. Whenever I hear somebody say a comment that makes complete sense to them and to religion and to Christianity, and it just feeds that philosophy of religion, that it's like, this makes perfect sense to me. And I'm like, do you know how God works? Because what they're essentially claiming in those statements is, I know the law of God. I know this. I know that. Whatever the case may be, insert whatever. And it's like, you're kind of making a claim that you not only believe in God, but you 100% fully understand him. And also now you have become this spokesman person for him, which is like, okay, you got the Bible. Let's say that that's true. Okay. But you got the Bible, but the amount of contradictions that are in there, that it's like, all right, are you actually reading? Oh, not just the contradictions, but by the way, it wasn't written in English. It was written in Greek, and it was written in Hebrew. And to understand Greek and Hebrew, you have to understand how the language is written, because it's completely different from English. And you have to understand the cultural basis for the Jewish people. It's not simple. It's not that simple. And that's like the whole point I'm trying to make here with all of these questions that I get. Is it's like, not even questions, statements that I get where it's like, this is how this works. And I'm like, it's not that simple. It's just not. Because at the end of the day, it's an encounter and it's an experience that matters, because we can create as much philosophical jargon as we want for it to make complete sense to us. But at the end of the day, if what the religion or philosophy says is, this will give you unconditional love, right? If that's what it says, and at the end of the day, we don't feel loved, then it's all bullshit. And it all doesn't even matter, because the entire purpose of this religious thinking is for us to feel more human, to feel more love, to feel safe, secure in ourselves, and that there is something greater. If at the end of the day, we can't experience or haven't experienced any of that, what the fuck's the point? I mean, am I crazy in this? Like, it's just, so thank you for saying that, Jess. It's just, that was a very long rant, and I'm sure I'm way behind in the comments, but I just needed to say all that.